Okay, so I'm live. Right, sometimes when I'm doing this, I will be talking for about 10 minutes and then somebody tells me they can't hear me, but I think it should be working. I really don't know how you test it until somebody comes back and says that they can actually hear me. Anyway, if you can, you will notice that I've got a new haircut, which basically looks like a fearsome egg. Anyway, this is this happy banter. Uh, on the 20th of September this year, just a week and a half from now, I am going to be doing a 1 day event at Biddulph Grange. Starts in the morning, goes right through to the end of the afternoon, and it's a tour and talks by me and explanations about the strange things that have been happening at Biddulph Grange and the Biddulph estate in North Staffordshire in the Midlands of England. And anybody who wants to come along on this, I'm going to put the link you can click on onto the what do you call this thing? The bit that tells you about what this video is about, not the title, but the other bit. I'm going to put the link in there. I think I can. The Facebook link that you can click, which is the Facebook events thing, which will be able to tell you all about what's going on. And if you want to book, it'll tell you how to do that. So that's the general idea. And I shall probably also try and put a link in the comments, but that's my knee. But I'm not quite sure if you can do that. But anyway, that's the. You can go on my Facebook, Graham Phillips Author, and you'll see all the links there. Anyway, just to give you some idea of what it's about for those who know or don't know about these tours that I do or events, because it's not just a tour. Biddulph Grange is a gardens open to the public, and part of the house is also open, a Victorian gardens and Victorian mansion. But all around that area, there was a huge estate in Victorian times in which many strange things have happened. Now, over the years, Biddulph, I mean, I've done a couple of tours at Biddulph before. I've done one all about the strange Meonia group in the 19th century, which kind of started the occult revival in Britain and built a series of shrines there to do some strange activities. And I've done one about the Knights Templars connection with the Biddulph area and possible links with the treasure they are supposed to have hidden. Excuse me. Right. Now, this one is all about the strange phenomena, the unexplained events that have happened on the Biddulph estate over the years. I mean, well, going back to the beginning, where the estate now stands in the wonderful countryside of central England, northern central England, there was once a series of megalithic sites. There are stone circles, stone rows, artificial mounds, some of which still survive. And so that shows it was a sacred site back in 5,000 years ago, the time that Stonehenge was built. Then there are places that were created by the Celts there, like an artificial tunnel or cave and other mounds and standing stones. So it was sacred around 2,500 years ago. And then in the Middle Ages, the Templars built one of the first preceptories. That's a kind of monastery in England at that site. And then after that, in the early 1600s, the Rosicrucians and occult groups that were starting throughout England started to build various structures there. And then in the 19th century, you've got a group not only that practice the occult. When I say the occult, I'm not talking about Dennis Wheatley stuff and raising the devil. Basically, they were interested in all sorts of different forms of mysticism, ancient Egyptian mysticism, Roman and Greek mysticism, and so on. And they built a series of shrines in the garden that people simply call follies. In fact, there was a woman called Maria Bateman that built them to complement her husband's wonderful gardens and all his plants. but she used these for places to meditate and to perform various mystical kind of events in the hope, strangely enough, of changing fate and fortune. Underneath the house, they actually built a large Roman temple, bringing various items back from Rome. And in the gardens, they built an Egyptian shrine, a temple, a Chinese pagoda building, and other things. And what happened was that what were they doing all this for? Interestingly enough, they were trying to change the lot for women in the 19th century. Now, in the middle of the 19th century, in the middle of the 1800s, the rights for women, not only in Britain, but throughout the world, were virtually non existent in almost every place. In England, for example, women couldn't own property, women couldn't. They couldn't inherit property if somebody died with, even in a will, a person couldn't leave their fortune to their daughter unless very specific criteria were met. In nearly every case, if a person died and there was not an oldest son to hand it all on to, then what would happen is it wouldn't go to the oldest daughter or any of the girls. It would go to a cousin, sometimes who had no connection with the family up to point, or at least wasn't friends with them or anything. So, and often these women were thrown out of the houses after living a comfortable life for years. They didn't have the right to vote. They weren't allowed to be educated, except for in very few circumstances. And they wanted to change this. And they started a group of leading feminists for the time, and started to work towards writing pamphlets, doing a magazine, holding meetings in London. But in addition to this, they were doing these mystical things in the hope of being able to change circumstances. And incredibly, over the years, very quickly, because of what they were doing, not only their activities in social work, shall we say, but also their going along with their mystical activities, things very quickly began to change for women in this country and elsewhere in the world. And within a few decades, women, it's not much by today's standards, but it was incredibly advanced by the standards of the 19th century. Women had got to own, they could own property, they could be educated, they could go to college. And of course, in the early 20th century, we've got the suffragettes, and they got the vote. Now, women got the women of Biddulph Grange, this group called the Meonia group, consisting mainly of women, actually were the people who inspired the beginning of the suffragette movement through a group called the suffragists, who came first. Okay, I won't go into all this, but in detail now, but you can see over the years at Biddulph, there have been many strange, unusual, mystical groups that have become associated with the place. Now, okay, this isn't going to be about a history tour. I will talk about these particular events to some degree, but most of what I'll be talking about is why it seems that Biddulph was chosen to be a special place by so many people over so many years, because there have been extraordinary, paranormal, unexplained, mysterious events taking place on the Biddulph estate for years. People have seen strange creatures, weird lights in the sky. It has been described as England's Skinwalker Ranch, because some strange animals have even been seen in the trees of that area. But okay, I'll tell you some of the things that have happened to myself and other researchers since we began looking into Biddulph in 1980. In fact, what we're doing this for is it's a 45-year anniversary, is the 20th of September, when we very first got information about Biddulph Grange and Biddulph. And when I say information, how did we ever hear of it in the first place? Because it wasn't open to the public then. It was a hospital and the grounds were all pretty much dilapidated. But the strange way that we heard about this was, at the time, I was working for a magazine in Wolverhampton called Strange Phenomena, which investigated the paranormal and other unexplained events. And we started getting people contacting us telling us that there was one group of people up in North Wales, a whole family who started having dreams about what would you call it, an Egyptian style temple that they felt was in the English countryside somewhere. There was people down in Bristol, a couple of students were doing a seance with like a Ouija board thing, and suddenly this Ouija board spelt out that they had to go to a place in central England where there was a Egyptian temple that had been built in the 19th century. Now these people just didn't know each other. There was no way they could have done back then, really, because there was no internet like there is today. And one after the other, people started getting in touch, telling us we should go to this place. They described it. A couple of people even sent it to us drawings of what they thought it looked like because they'd seen them in dreams. And this whole thing, when we finally figured out where this place was, the Egyptian temple of Biddulph Grange that was put there in the 19th century, this mock Egyptian temple, well, that was 45 years ago, this September the 20th, when I'm holding this event at Biddulph. But I've been talking about lots of other things. The house itself, part of it, you can go inside the house. Over the years, when it was a hospital, also then when it was ruined, now when it's ruined, it was abandoned. Then when it was used for private apartments and visitors to the site, I know of at least 10 cases. In fact, no, sorry, 12 cases where people have gone in there, been wandering around, walked into a really unusual room that looked dusty and unused, with a what they describe as on the roof a zodiac series of zodiac symbols and a circle on the roof painted there. And they've told other people about it, and they've said, "Well, that's not here," and they can never find it again. And there's various separate accounts of this. And I'll be talking about that also. A couple of people who are coming along have people who have actually witnessed this room that can never be found again. What's all that about? There are other strange things that happen inside Biddulph Grange. For example, there's a ghostly figure that's seen there when the place was a hospital. A woman in white was seen to stand beside the beds of children. It was a children's hospital for quite a time that were seriously ill, alerting nurses. That same woman in white is seen wandering around wandering around the rooms of Biddulph Grange even today. That's like a ghostly story. But there's a weird mirror there that you may be able to get to see. It depends on how many people are actually there on the day. But sometimes there's a room that's open. I'll certainly be telling you all about it and showing it you through the window if we can't get in there, but I'm going to try and get us in there. There's a mirror where people have said they've seen ghosts in Victorian costume, ghosts who are dressed in costumes like people today. They've actually thought they've been looking in the mirror and seeing another visitor behind them. And when they turn around, there's nobody there. And people have actually said they have seen ghosts of the future. Now, I've tried to ask them, why do you think they're from the future? And they said they've dressed very strangely in ways that we wouldn't dress today. Now, okay, I'm personally a bit skeptical about that, but I know a good few people have seen that or claim they have seen it who are completely sane, rational people, as far as I can work out. Anyway, there's lots of other stories about the house itself. And in the gardens, I'll be taking you to a place, if you should choose to accept to come along, taking you to a place where we first saw this strange dark figure in black with a top hat, Victorian clothes, that then started to appear elsewhere in the country, seemed to have latched onto us and helped us find a strange jewel called the Eye of Fire. Those who have read my book, The Eye of Fire, will know something about what that's about. I shall be talking all about that and other things that never got in the book. I shall be talking about how events began there that ended up in the story The Green Stones, such as the White Lady that was seen firstly by the lake at Biddulph and has appeared there many times to people, and ultimately appeared to 10 of us. 10 of us all saw her at exactly the same time before she vanished. I mean, there's no way that is mass hallucination as far as I'm concerned. I mean, two of the people there were councillors, and one of them was the head of the Parks Department for the whole of that area of Stoke-on-Trent and North Staffordshire. I mean, they're not the kind of people who usually go around ghost hunting. Anyway, I won't spoil it all now, but so the 20th of September this year, 2025, in a week and a half's time. It's a one-day event at Biddulph, and I'll be taking people around, showing them these various places where strange things have happened, talking about things that have never before appeared in any of my books, have been covered. Some things have been covered by my books, others haven't. And also, you'll have the chance to go and see a previously undiscovered shrine. The Meonia group in the 19th century actually built 4 shrines in the place. One which was associated with earth, which was a Roman temple. One which was associated with air, which was the Egyptian temple. There was a Chinese sanctuary associated with fire, and a Celtic shrine associated with water. And it's only recently that we've discovered the location of the 5th shrine, the shrine of quintessence or spirit, which is God, I'm talking too much, which is now dilapidated, but you can still see it, and it's in the most astonishingly beautiful setting. But anyway, all of this, right, got to drink something before my throat goes. Strangely enough, I've been having this hay fever thing, which actually affects my throat rather than my nose. So I don't know what that is. But anyway, hopefully I shall live for another 1.5 weeks in order to take you around this event, should you choose to accept it. As I say, if you want to find out more, at the top of this, on the explanation of what this talk is about on Facebook, on YouTube, you'll see I put a link you can click on. Click on that and you can find out more about it and how to book and so on and so forth. So there you go. That was all ad-libbed, so I hope there wasn't anything I wanted to say I've left out. There's obviously plenty more you can learn when you come along. Thank you very much for listening. I do hope people could have heard this. I do hope people have heard this, and the microphone's been working properly. Otherwise, I've just wasted however many minutes I've just wasted. 70, 80. So Katrina Marshall says hi from SC USA, Sacramento, whatever that is. Hello, Katrina. Okay, that's it for now. Bye for the moment.